Welcome back to another episode of Sports-Fixx. I am your host, Carson Becker. We are back talking about college football once again. It's been a little while since I posted here, but we are back. First, talking about the Heisman. Fernando Mendoza is your Heisman for the 2025 season. Not much of a surprise there. Really took Indiana to an undefeated record. Big Ten champions, the number one seed in the playoffs. So, not very surprised here. Well deserved for this guy. He's a really hard guy not to like. Thanking all his teammates, thanking his coaches. His offensive line was very excited when he won the Heisman. So, very hard guy not to like. Can't say the same about his coach, but that's all I'll say about that. So good for Indiana getting another big win there, getting the Heisman. Now they look to see who they will play. Oklahoma or Alabama in the second round of the playoffs, and we'll see if they can continue this great run that Indiana's been on for the last 2 years. They've been on a great run. So Signetti, that coach, has really turned around that program. I can't hate on that. So you really do. If you Google him, you really will see some great stuff from him at Indiana. So props to him on that. Now, a couple of things in the transfer portal. There's some new guys in the transfer portal, some guys that still haven't signed anywhere. DJ Lagway from Florida, now in the transfer portal. Dylan Raiola from Nebraska is now in the transfer portal as well. Sam Levitt from Arizona State, he's been in the transfer portal for a little while. And Aiden Childs, Michigan State's quarterback. A lot of people probably haven't heard about him because Michigan State just really hasn't been good, but really a solid quarterback there. If he goes to the right spot, gets some weapons, he could be a good quarterback next year. So bunch of other guys in the transfer portal as well. I just can't go over every single guy because that would take up 30 minutes. But so a lot of great names in the transfer portal. And speaking of transfers, the last 4 Heisman winners have all been transfers. And so looking at this list, you could maybe see the next Heisman winner based on history. So we'll see with that. The last Heisman winner to not be a transfer was Bryce Young in 2021. Where he stayed at Alabama and eventually won the Heisman before declaring for the NFL draft. And in 2025, we also have Phillip Rivers throwing touchdown passes in the NFL at 44 years old. That's something I never thought I would see again, never thought I would say again. Phillip Rivers back in the NFL. And, I mean, led him in a pretty good game. Didn't have a terrible stat line, threw a touchdown pass. Kind of kept him in that game a little bit in Seattle, which is a very tough place to play, especially when you're coming back after 5 years. So it's looking like he might start the next game as well for them. So, I mean, who knows? He might lead him to a victory at 44. That'd be crazy. But another thing I did not think I would see in the year 2025. And also Michigan looking for a new head coach after another scandal pops up there. And Sherrone Moore and his staffer had a inappropriate relationship, apparently. There's been a lot of stuff coming out about it. Kind of see where it all ends up and how it all turns out. But Michigan looking for a new head coach next year. And now we'll get into the playoff games coming up this weekend. And starting off with the only game on Friday, Alabama versus Oklahoma. Now, we have these two teams have already played during the regular season. We all saw it in Tuscaloosa, where Oklahoma won 23-21. It was a great game, but the bad thing for Alabama was their turnovers. They turned the ball over 3 times with an interception that went for 6 and 2 fumbles that played a big part in how that game ended up, with Oklahoma being in positive field position on both those fumbles, and then the pick 6 obviously went for a touchdown. That was early in the game. So a very, very bad game for Alabama, probably definitely one of their worst games of the season. And definitely will have to look to take care of the ball better in this one if they want to go and win. Now, this one is in Norman, Oklahoma, so it will be even tougher to go and win this game. Fans will be rowdy. They'll be, doing all they want to do, partying all day leading up to this game. And as classes have been canceled, as people have probably seen by now, classes have been canceled on Oklahoma's campus. So they'll be real rowdy in that stadium. It'll be real loud. Alabama will have to look to establish something right away. If it's the run game, fine. They establish the run game right away. Take the crowd out of it as much as you can in the beginning. And definitely don't let them come back. But you're looking at probably a low-scoring game Probably the first team to get to like that 25-point mark is probably going to win the game. It's going to be a whole lot of defense. Vegas agrees with a 40.5 over-under in this one. I'm expecting the score to be right around that as well. Both these teams probably sitting in the 20, right around the 20 mark. So 40.5 looks to be just about right. I would stay away from that if you're a betting man. And this is a huge game. Probably one of the better games we're going to see of the first round, most likely. Maybe that Texas A&M Miami game will also be good, but the other two games probably not going to be nearly as good as this one. Alabama is favored by 1.5 in this one, expecting a close game, and it really should be. This should be a great, great game. And so we'll see who ends up winning this one. And obviously, the winner of this game will go on to play the number 1 seed, Indiana, with Fernando Mendoza, the Heisman winner, the number 1 seed, and they'll play them in the Rose Bowl. So we'll see how that game turns out there. Next up, 3 games on Saturday, starting off at noon in College Station. Miami versus Texas A&M, and both these teams have had solid seasons. Miami, obviously, a lot of controversy with the playoff committee as they jump Notre Dame and jump into the playoff over some of these other teams. Notre Dame being in a playoff spot for 8 weeks, and then Miami jumped them at the very last second, so whole lot of stuff with that, but Miami did have a very good season, only losing 2 games, both to ranked teams there. So we will see kind of how this game goes. I'm expecting Miami to kind of struggle. Carson Beck getting back into that SEC play as he's played in the ACC all year. He's kind of struggled in the ACC this year. I expect him to struggle in this game as well, as I think he throws at least 1 pick, maybe even 2. If they get pressure on him, he's going to throw the ball away. It's going to get bad for Miami. They really got to find a way to establish that passing game because the run game has been awful all year. So they got to find a way to get Carson Beck hot early and in a very good rhythm, because if not, Marcel Reed in this Texas A&M offense is going to put up a whole bunch of points on them, and this game is just not going to be close. So we'll see how this game goes. Texas A&M favored by 3 at this point in the season. So we'll see kind of how it goes. I think they cover that -3. I think Carson Beck, like I said, turns the ball over a couple times, and Texas A&M, Marcel Reed really get a big bounce back win after that Texas game. So they haven't played in a little while. Miami hasn't played in a little while, as both these teams did not play in their conference championship games. So I'm expecting this one to be a little slow out of the gate, but I think Marcel Reed in that Texas A&M offense puts up a good amount of points, and I think Miami struggles. So I would have Texas A&M -3 covering that spread and winning the game. And the winner of this game would go on to play Ohio State, the number 2 seed in the Cotton Bowl in the second round of the playoffs. So next game, sitting at 3:30 Saturday, shouldn't be much of a game as we saw earlier this season. We saw Ole Miss winning this one 45-10. It's Ole Miss versus Tulane. Ole Miss favored by 17.5 in this one. No one's really giving Tulane much of a chance in this one, which is kind of unfortunate for a playoff game, but we kind of saw it last year as well, where some teams, we see these Power 5 teams getting into the playoffs, and it's just maybe not the best games. But in any sense, I do think there's maybe a little bit of a question behind Ole Miss in this one. How do they come out in the first half? Right? We all know Lane Kiffin is now down in LSU, and he didn't leave Ole Miss very well. A lot of players were upset with how he left, how apparently he lied about saying he was leaving and all this stuff. There's a whole bunch of stuff coming out about it. And so I wonder if they come out maybe a little sloppy in the first half with a new head coach, Lane Kiffin distraction going on around. Is it a distraction? Probably for many players. So we'll see kind of how they come out in the first half. I do think they win this game by a pretty good margin, but I'm interested to see how they play with Lane Kiffin, not only in this one, but if they go and win this one, how they would play against a Georgia team that's been very dominant with a very good defense, how different that game would have been with Lane Kiffin coaching and with their coach now. So that will be very interesting to me. I think the Georgia game is going to be a little more interesting, but this game, they have to go and win this game first. They're favored by 17.5. I don't know if I have them covering the 17.5. They probably will, but I have Ole Miss winning that one. Then you got the last game of Saturday and of the first round of the playoffs at 7:30. JMU versus Oregon. nobody giving JMU much of a chance. Same thing kind of with Tulane here. They're actually 21-point underdogs, so even bigger underdogs in Eugene. And I've said it in multiple weeks, Oregon's offense just hasn't really been that impressive to me compared to what we've seen in past years. Their high-powered offense, their running gun, their vertical threat offense just really hasn't been that great. Now, that tight end is a beast, and if you get him the ball against this JMU team, he'll probably have 200 yards if you just throw him the ball every time. But they won't do that. So we'll see kind of how JMU comes out and plays. Not much on JMU. Probably not many people watching JMU at this point in the season. Haven't had a lot of noise watching them. I did watch their bowl game or their championship game. It's pretty funny watching them throw snowballs at the punter right before he shanked it in his own end zone. That was pretty funny. Obviously, I mean, I guess they could do that in Eugene. It could be snowing up there late December, but they'd probably get a flag for that. They did almost get a flag in their bowl game, in their championship game. Sorry, not their bowl game. But could be a good game. Maybe if JMU kind of forces a couple turnovers. We've seen Oregon's quarterback kind of struggle with pressure a little bit this year. With Indiana, he threw a pick six in a pivotal part of the game. And so we've seen if they put pressure on him that he kind of struggles. So if JMU can do that, they can maybe stay in this game for the first half. I don't see them staying in this game and winning this game, but it is cool to see a JMU team traveling all the way across the country to Oregon to play in a playoff game. That is very exciting and something you probably never thought you would have seen at the end of this season and a couple years ago. You would have never even thought about this as JMU playing in a playoff game. So we'll see what happens with that. Could be a good game. I mean, the first round is kind of just not nearly as great as all the other rounds because you got the 12 seed group of 5 team. This year you got 2 group of 5 teams, so it's kind of like 2 games just really aren't going to be that great. So we'll see. Maybe they'll surprise us and make it two more good games this weekend, but not expecting this JMU game or that Ole Miss game to be very, very competitive. So we'll see. The winner of the Oregon JMU game will go on to play Texas Tech, which I think if Oregon wins and plays Texas Tech, that would be a fantastic game. And then if JMU becomes the Cinderella story, I would love to see JMU go and beat Texas Tech as well. Make it a real Cinderella story for this playoff. Make it very interesting if that were to happen. So we'll see what happens. Now, it's any given Saturday, any team can win. So we'll see. Maybe Oregon comes out flat and JMU takes it to them. But so some solid games in the first round. We'll see kind of how it all turns out. We got games on Friday and games all day Saturday. Of course, you got NFL on Sunday. It's getting close to that playoff push there for some of those teams in the NFL. And some teams are already out. Some teams are fighting for those spots. You get the Kansas City Chiefs are already out of the playoffs for the first time in like 11 years or whatever it was. So first time since Patrick Mahomes came into the league. So we'll see kind of what happens with that in the NFL and whatever happens with the rest of the college football playoff. I will be here talking about all the playoff games on Sports-Fixx. So that's all I have for this episode of Sports-Fixx. Thank you for watching. I am Carson Becker, and I will see you next time.